elder be thy lady's tree, burn it not, or cursed you'll be. Hi folks, we're out today with our lovely elder tree, one of our most magical and medicinally useful trees. So we're going to talk today about some of the uses of this, some of the folklore, and then we're going to collect some of these lovely flower heads, and we're going to make some elderflower fizz as well. So elder trees are quite small trees. You generally find them hanging out in hedgerows, but if you ever find one that is an actual tree, they've got this almost like gnarly sort of appearance, and they give off this vibe of being old crones bent over, and there's loads of folklore around elder trees being witches, or witches turning into elder trees. And I'm going to read from you a little bit, a little story about that now. So the book that I'm reading from today is this one. It's called Tree Wisdom. It's by Jacqueline Memory Patterson. It's a really fab book. It tells you about different trees, how to recognise them, how to identify them, as well as giving you folklore, magical uses. It's just lovely, so I do recommend checking it out. The passage that I'm going to read from you is about the rollright stones, which are standing stones on the border of Oxfordshire and Warwickshire, I believe. And this is about how the stones came to be. So, according to the legend, witches would often turn themselves into elder trees. And a Danish king, on his way to battle for the English crown with his warrior, he met with a witch, and he asked her what his fate would be. And the witch replied, 7 long strides thou shalt take, and if thou long Compton thou canst see, King of England thou shalt be. And because he was almost at the crest of the hill, the Dane was confident as he strode forth, but unexpectedly at his 7th stride a long mound rose up before him, blocking his view, and the old witch continued. As long Compton thou canst not see, King of England thou shalt not be. Rise up, stick, and stand still, stone, the King of England thou shalt be none. Thou and thy men hoar stones shall be, and I myself an elder tree. And in an instant the Danish king and his men were turned to stone. Those warriors loyal to the king became the king's men stones set in a circle, and those who questioned his authority turned into the whispering knights huddled together and apart from the others. The king himself became the king's stone, standing still in shocked attitude apart from all his men, and the witch then resumed her guise as the guardian elder tree. So there's loads of folklore like this about these trees being very witchy, and there's particularly lots of folklore as well about not harming or particularly burning elder trees. Now I think, like a lot of folklore, there's a little bit of science behind this, because the bark of an elder tree is slightly toxic. So if you burn it, it gives off fumes that you wouldn't want to inhale, because they would be slightly poisonous. But also, because the elder trees are super medicinal, like you can use every part of them, I also think as well it's a warning, like don't harm them because they're just too useful, leave them be. So we'll show you some of the identification features now. So it's late in May now, and these flowers are all out in full bloom. They grow in these like umbrella type shapes on the elder tree. Now they could be easily mixed up with rowan, but I'll show you the difference with rowan leaves in a bit if we can find one. They have a distinct smell, elderflowers. They smell slightly of cat wee. There's no other way to put it. That's how they smell. So that's one identifying feature. And then the leaves, they kind of grow in pairs. They've got this slightly jaggedy, raggedy edge to them. Whereas if I get, say for example, an ash leaf, Now ash leaves, you can see in comparison, are much longer and they're sort of almost less round. I don't know if you can see them next to each other there. So that's one way to tell an ash tree from an elder tree, and also on an ash tree you wouldn't get the flowers. We'll find a rowan tree in a minute as well. So as I said, every part of the elder tree is medicinal. The flowers you would use, they're really good for helping with sinuses and for hay fever. So these are really good to put in your sinus mixes, your hay fever mixes. The leaves have got this slightly insecticidal quality to them, so you'll see animals running their heads and their horns through this to give them almost like a natural bug go away. And then the bark can be used as well. In the winter you obviously get the berries, so in the winter you get these lovely deep purple berries, which have got antimicrobial, antiviral properties. We collect them and use them in our winter cold and flu remedies and cough remedies. So amazing trees to know. What we're going to do is we're going to find a different tree, because this one hasn't got too many flowers on it and we don't want to take more than what we need. We don't want to take from places which aren't abundant. So we'll find some different elderflower trees with lots of flowers on to collect, and then we're going to make some elderflower fizz. So I'll show you how to do that in a bit. So we've got a rowan tree here, and the flowers have already gone over on the rowan tree. In fact, there's even berries starting to come on them, on some of them. So that's one thing to look out for. The flowers on this will be out much earlier than an elder tree. But the leaves are much different. You can probably see there. They've got almost like a point to them. They've got this jaggedy edge all around them, just so very similar jaggedy edge, but very different shape to the elder tree. So that's your rowan. Okay folks, so when we started filming this video it was the end of May. There really wasn't much elderflower out at that point, so I've waited a good couple of weeks and we're now a couple of weeks into June. There's loads of elderflower out now, so I'm going to collect some of these to make our elderflower fizz. We're going to collect about 20 heads, so we might need to use a couple of different bushes. So let's get on with that. Okay folks, so we are back in the kitchen and we're going to do our elderflower fizz. So what we need for this is we're going to need one of these fermentation buckets, and you can pick these up in lots of different places. I think we got this in like a local pound shop or something. And you're going to need some sugar, you're going to need some lemons, you're going to obviously need your elderflowers, you're going to either need some white wine vinegar or some cider vinegar, and you're going to need some empty fizzy drinks bottles. And the reason we're going to use plastic bottles, not glass bottles, is that when we've put this into the bottles, it continues to ferment once you've strained it all off for a couple of weeks, and that can get a little bit explosive. So apparently there's a story about my grandmother making elderflower fizz during the war, and got woken up by what she thought was the Germans attacking in the middle of the night, but it wasn't the Germans, it was exploding elderflower. So that's why we're going to use the plastic bottles. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by popping some hot water in here. So got the boiled kettle behind me. I'm going to pop the hot water in there, and then we're going to add the sugar. So I'm going to do about half a bag of the sugar. And then we're going to get our kettle and just melt the sugar then with the hot water. Now we'll give this a stir now to get it to melt. And once we've melted the sugar, we're going to top this up now with some water. We want this to be warm, so not cold, not hot, but warm. We're going to do about 10 litres, so we're going to top the water up to about there. And then once we've topped it up with the water, we're going to add in all our other ingredients. We're going to add in our elderflower heads. Oh, we want to break off some of those stems. So when we're putting in the elderflowers, we want to try and break away as much of the flower from the stem as we can. So we want to try and leave out the stems as much as possible. And then with the lemons, I'm going to grate some of the zest into the tub here. And then when we've grated some of the zest in, we'll chop the lemons up and pop them in and give them a good squeeze in as well. And then once the lemons are in, I'm going to give it all a good stir. This is going to then be left for about 3 days. So we'll come back every day and stir it. And after about 3 days, we'll come back and we'll strain it off. So see you in 3 days. So I forgot to say, folks, to add the cider vinegar in. So liberal splash of cider vinegar in. You don't need to add anything like any extra yeast. This will ferment itself. So yeah, just leave it be. Okay, folks, so it has been 3 days. So while this has been fermenting, so what we're going to do now is we're going to strain this all off. So I used brown sugar when I made this, which is why it's gone this brown colour. Normally I would use white sugar, but I don't think it's going to affect the recipe in any way, shape or form. It's just going to be a slightly funky colour, which is going to be fine. So what you're going to need is, the best way I've found to do this is with a jug. And then you've got your sieve, so a nice fine sieve on top of a bowl. We've got our plastic bottles, which we talked about, with a funnel. And then the best way to do this is going to be in the sink so that you don't make a mess on your surfaces. So we're literally just going to get a jug full, strain it through the sieve, and then will go in here. So the sieve on its own wasn't giving me quite enough filtration, so I'm going to run it back through a muslin cloth just to get those last little bits out. So we've put everything into the bottles now. Now what you want to do every day for about 3 weeks now is you want to do this. So you want to degas the elderflower fizz every day. You can see I've left a little bit of a gap in the top of all the bottles here, so that when it does get that, when it does start to ferment, it's got room to expand. So leave it for about 3 weeks and then come back to it. By that point it should have gone slightly clearer. If for any reason you find that it's not fermenting, that it's not fizzing, all you need to do is put the liquid back into the fermenting tub with some more sugar, leave it for another 3 days, strain it off again and pop it back into your bottles. And that's your elderflower fizz. You can do this with other plants as well. So apparently lilac makes a really nice fizz as well. I've not tried that one, so maybe that's one for next year. But have a try, see how you get on, let me know in the comments.